Alright, so today I have some more Ball Python eggs that are hatching, and this is a pretty interesting clutch. As a matter of fact, I've actually been waiting for this clutch for 3 years, which is pretty amazing. So about 3 years ago, I actually took my Coral Glow 100% het pied and I bred it to a normal, and I actually produced this really interesting looking normal. And come to find out, it was actually a female. So I've been waiting for this female to mature for about 3 years, and she finally laid a really small clutch of eggs. She only laid 4 eggs. And I was kind of debating whether or not to breed her because she was right on the edge of 1,500 grams, which is considered kind of the minimum weight for breeding female ball pythons. But sure enough, I actually bred her and she laid 4 eggs, and I saw some of them are hatching. And the interesting thing about this project is I'm thinking maybe it's a brand new gene, or maybe it's a gene that I'm not really familiar with, which is kind of interesting. So what I did is I actually took the Coral Glow, which I think contains that kind of hidden gene in there, and I bred it back to this Dinker, hoping to produce a super form of that gene, which if I could actually produce the super, we probably could figure out exactly what it is. Or the Dinker could be the super form already. As a matter of fact, I've seen several different snakes over on Morph Market that look similar to this. I actually saw one over there that was listed as a mahogany, looked almost exactly the same, but I don't think it's actually a mahogany. The mahogany, if you actually make the super mahogany, you would make the Suma, which is a completely black patternless snake. It's kind of almost like a brownish, kind of like a coppery brownish snake, not completely black. It's kind of interesting when you produce Suma. So if we produce the Suma, we'll definitely know that it's the mahogany. I also saw another snake over there that was the it was the Rio, which is a super Arroyo, looked almost exactly like this, but I don't think it's that either. So there's a couple snakes, just kind of random examples I found over on Morph Market over the last few years that look almost exactly like this Dinker project, but there's several different genes and they don't really line up with kind of the mainstream look of that particular gene. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what it'll actually produce in this. The other thing on that Dinker is it actually has some tracks on the belly, so I'm thinking that it could be het pied because it looks like it has het pied markers along the belly. So potentially we could get some visual pies, and if I hit the odds right, potentially I can actually hit a Coral Glow pied, a visual Coral Glow pied, which I probably would definitely hold that one back as a future breeder. So I want to pull these eggs out of the incubator. Before I show you the eggs and we do a little egg cutting, I definitely want to show you the parents on this. I'll show you the Coral Glow het pied, and then I'll show you this interesting Dinker female. Alright, so here's the Coral Glow that I used as the male in this pairing, and this one's kind of interesting. This is actually a male and a male maker. So keep in mind the Coral Glow is a sex-linked gene. You can have male makers or female makers. In this particular one, since it's a male maker, every single Coral Glow offspring that I've ever produced from this guy, they've all been males. I have 0 Coral Glow females produced from this guy, which is kind of the challenging part of the project. Although, you know, in some cases it actually can speed things up a little bit having a male maker, because you don't have to wait 3 years to breed them. You can breed them pretty much after a year. Some people breed them after a year, some people wait. I'd recommend 2 years for your males and probably 3 years for your females. So the kind of the interesting thing about this is if you look at your typical Coral Glows, a lot of times you'll see kind of like these alien heads. They call them like a kind of like the Roswell gray alien head that you'd see like on a normal ball python. You can kind of see one right here, like the little head with the 2 eyes. And in your typical Coral Glows, you kind of have a repeating pattern of alien heads. You have some of them on this snake, but if you actually look at the kind of the overall pattern of this one, it's really kind of jumbled up. And that's why I think maybe that extra hidden gene that produced that Dinker might be in this snake versus maybe in the normal that I used. I actually produced that one from a completely different normal female, but I don't think there's anything in that normal. I think the kind of the Dinker came from this. So this is kind of like the test, bringing this back to the Dinker to see if we can produce the super form. The other thing is this one is 100% het pied, and usually, well, I'd say maybe about 50% of the time, well, maybe less than that, you know, with the het pied, sometimes you can see tracks along the bellies of the het pieds. Like it almost looks like someone took a Sharpie and drew lines on either side of the belly. And if you actually have the Coral Glow gene with the het pied, you really can't see the het pied markers on the Coral Glows. So on every single coral glow, even if it's 100% het pied like this one, you won't see any tracks along the belly, which is kind of challenging. So the only time I've ever seen het pied markers on a het pied is on just a normal ball python. I've actually seen one a couple times on pastels. Sometimes on pastels you can see the het pied markers, but on the coral glows you definitely can't. So all these offspring will be 50% het pied. You may be able to see some of the markers on the bellies. I'd say maybe about 1 in 10 will have markers. They don't always have the het pied tracks on the belly, but usually if they have the tracks on the belly, there you can definitely know for sure that they are het pied. So that's kind of an interesting way to kind of verify you have het pied, even though the odds are like 50%. So I'm going to jump over. I want to show you this really interesting female dinker that laid the eggs. Alright, so here's the female that I'm calling Dinker, and I remember when this one hatched, it actually popped its little head out of the egg, and I was like, oh, it's another normal. You know, I'm always trying not to get normals, and it has a completely normal looking head that you can see right there. And then after it crawled out, to my surprise, it had this really interesting pattern, not really anything I've ever seen before, just on a regular normal. So usually on the normals you actually have the alien heads, and this one has almost like the kind of the Mojave, kind of the floating little circles that you see down the top. And then it has a really interesting line right down the top. Look at the line. It has this line that goes down with the little bubbles in the line, and usually I've actually seen different genes kind of with the line and the bubbles that indicate different genes, but nothing that really looked kind of like a normal color with the kind of the weird line right down the top, and kind of you can definitely tell there's something in there. And I've had a couple people say, hey, we just think that's like just an unusual het pied. Some people have said that they produced het pieds that kind of look like this. You can tell she's still kind of skinny because she just laid eggs not too long ago, and she's been on food. She was really super skinny when she laid eggs, but she's getting back on weight. So it's kind of interesting. The other thing I wanted to show you, if she'll release the death grip on my wrist here. She's like got a death grip on me. All right, come on, girl. Woo, this girl, she's not really used to being handled that much. I don't really handle this one hardly at all. You can actually see right down the belly, on either side of the belly, she has really strong tracks all the way down. And usually the het pied's really strong right before the vent, right on the tail. You can see like right in here. I'm thinking that this one is actually, even if there's not another gene in there, I'm thinking for sure it's at least 100% het pied. So we're breeding 2 het pieds together, so the odds of getting a visual pied would actually be 1 in 4. And with 4 eggs, we may actually hit a visual pied, which would be really awesome. So another thing I might actually do with this one is maybe next year, maybe breed my albino pied to this, and then we get 50% visual pieds. Everything would be het for albino. If this one is het for pied, I'm pretty sure it is. So all right, let's pull out these eggs and see what we got. I'm really looking forward to maybe producing another one of these. If I get a normal, it'd be interesting to see if it's kind of an interesting looking normal like this one, or if it's completely different, maybe like a super form, if this is a new gene or a different gene, or if we can actually produce some pieds, which would be pretty awesome. Alright, so here we go, the moment of truth. Hopefully the odds will be good to us. I saw one little head sticking out that I thought was a corglo. Usually when I see one head sticking out, that it means it's time to cut these eggs. So let's take a look at this. One of these eggs was a little boob egg, a little kind of a smaller egg. Wow, look at that, nice. Alright, so it looked like the little boob egg hatched, and it looks like we have, looks like 3 coral glow heads sticking out there. That's pretty cool. Hit some pretty good odds on that one. And then we have this one. It looks like that one's a good egg too because it's all cut up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the one where the head's not sticking out, just out of curiosity. I know these are all coral glows. I'm really interested to see if these have the Pi gene in. So kind of the, it's kind of a double-edged sword really, because I was actually hoping for more normal looking snakes where I could actually see maybe the super form. So if that super form of the Dinker, or if the Dinker is actually in another coral glow, it may be masked by the coral glow, which it kind of seems like it's like masked in that parent, that male coral glow. So I'm going to take a look at this one. Hopefully we'll get a normal looking, interesting looking snake. That's kind of what I was looking for. And of course we have 3 coral glows, which unless it's like really dramatic as far as the super form where you can see it on top of a coral glow, I don't know if we're actually going to see it in that one. So let's take a look at this one to see what we actually get. This is the egg that could prove my interesting Dinker project here. Wow, are you serious? We got another coral glow. Wow. Take a look at that. Wow, it's a really reduced pattern too. Take a look at that. That's pretty wild. Let me move the light up just a little bit so you can actually see in the egg. So what I'm actually looking for a coral glow pied with the pied has the big splotches of white in the snake, and I'm not seeing a coral glow pied in this one, but I am seeing a coral glow with a really reduced, almost looks like inchy. But kind of the funny thing is I produce so many offspring from this, and I've never produced just a standalone inchy. So I don't think it's inchy, I think it's something else in one of these. All right, so we have 4 coral glows at least. So I'm actually gonna cut these open a little bit just to see if we have any coral glow pieds. 1 out of 4 should be a pied. Kind of the thing that blows me away is we actually got 4 coral glows. I mean, you know, with the statistics, you know, technically we should have got 2 coral glows, and then we got 4, which is pretty wild. So always makes me nervous when their head's kind of sticking out and they kind of get stuck right there. Let's see if I can get this guy out. Head's kind of stuck in there. Alright. Whew. It's weird how they get their head out and they can't get it back in. So on this one, looks like you can see on this one, I think this one's just see the little alien heads on that one. That's kind of what you'd expect as far as just a regular coral glow without any other genes in it. You kind of get the interesting kind of just looking almost like a normal pattern on the side. You can see the little alien heads. You can kind of see them on the other side too. That's what you'd expect for just like a regular coral glow with no other genes in the coral glow. So that last one we looked at was really super reduced, almost like it was the super form compared to that other one, but it was on top of the coral glow and you really couldn't see any difference. No patches of white on that one. So no coral glow pieds. So these are 50% het pied, 50% chance that they have 1 copy of the pied. Of course, if we can prove, if we actually get a visual pied, then the statistics would change. It would go from a 50% to a 66% chance of having the pied, because we'd be breeding 2 pieds together, or 2 het pieds. So you'd have better odds. See, this one seems kind of reduced too. I can't believe that one hatched. That's a little boob egg. You know, sometimes you get a little like a bad spot on an egg and they still hatch. And a lot of times on the boob eggs you just get kind of a smaller hatchling. But this one looks good. I don't see any patches of white on that one. Just a regular coral glow on that one. It's kind of interesting. Alright, so no coral glow pied so far. 4 coral glows. What are the odds of that? It'd be kind of interesting to sit down and figure out what your odds are for any specific clutch. You know, sometimes if you look at the individual eggs, sometimes you get some really crazy odds, but all together as a clutch, you know, sometimes it's like a 1 in a million chance, I think, that you'll actually get all these crazy odds. Sometimes you hit them all really good, sometimes you hit hardly anything, and usually, like, if you have multiple genes, the odds get way up in there. As far as, look at that guy, it's like his head's like stuck there. I don't know how they actually get it out in the wild, but it's kind of funny. And it's like stuck. He's like, you can't get back in there. Oh, these crazy snakes. That's just weird that they kind of get stuck right there. Alright, little guy, so I don't even know how to cut this one without getting his neck stuck in there. Alright, let's see. Alright, so I'm going to start down at the bottom, down over here. Sometimes it's a little tricky to kind of cut these. I always like to try to get their head out of there without, it always makes me nervous. And a lot of people watch me do some of the stuff on here and they're like, I can't watch, it makes me so nervous. Like when I'm separating the eggs when they hatch. A lot of people say that makes them nervous. Whoa, that guy got his head out. Alright, so let's take a look at this one. This one, I'm not seeing any white as far as looking like a pied on this one. No reduction in pattern really. Just still kind of looks like just a regular coral glow. So if I was a betting man, I would say 3 coral glows. Those two look like really normal coral glows. That one looks like a pretty normal. But this one right here, this one looks really reduced. Take a look at that. I think there's something in there. I think that's that weird, unusual gene. And the other thing is, a lot of people have said, you know, if you actually have a coral glow with kind of a mixed up pattern, that could potentially be your coral glow het pied, because sometimes the het pied influence can actually jumble up the pattern on those as well too. So that was pretty unbelievable odds. You know, sometimes they can flip it, you get 4 normals. In this case, we got 4 coral glows, which is pretty awesome. I was actually hoping for, in this one I was actually hoping for kind of the normal, so we can actually see the difference between a normal and the Dinker looking kind of a pattern. So for next year, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this pairing again, and as far as keeping any of these, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep any of these or not. Maybe I'll, you know what, maybe what I'll do is I'll try to breed like a visual pied back to that Dinker and see if we can prove out the het pied. And then if we prove out the het pied, then we can breed it back to the coral glow and maybe one of the future years. And then try this project again to see if we can produce some more Dinkers or maybe the super form. But it looks like we didn't hit it on this one. But we got some pretty good odds anyways, so it was a pretty interesting project. And all 4 eggs hatched, which is pretty awesome. So alright guys, thanks for coming along, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.